Hello again, my advanced algebra or advanced pre-algebra students. Today we're going to be starting from our little skinny blue books that I would show you in class if you're in class, but some of you won't even see those. We won't be handing out any of these books, but I do have the book already in Schoology, so you can see the entire book. And when we have assignments from that book, I will also have a PDF of just those pages that you need. So I'll be able to tell you, which problems we're going to be doing from those kind of book pages. And today we're starting on the very first section in that chapter, which is about combining like terms. Today we've got a lot of vocabulary. If you're a student that likes to take some notes and write it down yourself to help you remember some things, that would be a great idea today. However, you have this video, you can come back to this and watch this if you need to. It's also in that book that's going to be in Schoology for you. So today, first vocabulary that we're going to talk about is equivalent expressions. Equivalent is just another fancy word for equal. So expressions are just math statements, and we've got two things that are equal. Usually when we're trying to do some of the math to clean it up, that's going to create equivalent expressions, things that mean the same thing, but they might look a little different. Terms are just pieces of a math problem. They're going to be separated by addition or subtraction, and I'm going to say I don't really like the subtraction. We're going to want to change the subtraction in those problems, but the terms are just those pieces that are getting added and subtracted with each other. The coefficient is the number that's in front of a variable. So if I give you 2x like this, the 2 is the number that's in front of the variable, the x is the variable, so 2 is the coefficient. Now, here's one that's really tricky, and I'm going to rewrite it because it's too hard for me to write on here on the smartboard the way that it is. So if I have negative x, you can see in here, I said that -1 is the coefficient. Here's why. In front of any variable, if there isn't a number there, I can put a 1 there. So if it's a negative in front of that variable, I can still put that 1 there. So it's really like -1 times your variable, your x. And again, those are the coefficients, the number in front of the variable. We already said that terms are the pieces in a math problem. Like terms are the things that match, things that go together, right? It does say up here something about having the same power, and that's about this right here. I'll talk about that in just a second. But if I give you this problem, 2x plus 3 plus 4x, they don't all match. I can't put all of that stuff together into one thing, but the x's do match. So this 2x can go together with this 4x, and they come together to make that 6x right there. The plus 3 just kind of hangs on. So back to this thing with these exponents. If I have 2x squared and just a 3x, x squared and a regular x are different things. They don't go together. It's not going to be much of a big deal today, but I just want to make sure that you're aware that if there's an exponent on a variable, that's a different thing. So we already talked about a coefficient. That's the number that's in front of a variable. A constant is a number that doesn't have a variable. So if I give you this expression, 2x plus 6, the 6 is the constant because 6 is always 6. Think about the name variable. So the 2 is the coefficient in front of that variable. Variable means it can change. The x could be different numbers in different problems. But 6 is always just 6. It's constant. It doesn't change. Simplest form is what we're going to be working for in most of our problems. We want to clean up the math problems that I'm giving you. That means I'm going to combine things that match. I'm going to put them in a special order. I'm going to make sure there's no parentheses. And then the last thing is, so simplest form is when we get it all cleaned up. Simplify the expression is like the directions I would give you to tell you to put it into simplest form. So you're going to have a couple of problems like this today in your homework. I've got this long expression up here. I've got 6n plus 1 minus n plus 4. I want to be able to answer all these different things based on what we now know about the vocabulary stuff. So how many terms are there? The terms, remember, are the things that are separated by addition and subtraction. There are 4 terms. There's 6n, there's a 1, there's this n, that subtraction throws me off a little bit, but don't worry about that for a moment, and there's a 4. So there are 4 terms. Now, that negative in front of the n, that does bother me. So I would say if there's ever a variable with no coefficient, I'm going to put a 1 there. And we're going to do our keep, change, just like we did in our order of operations. So I'm going to do this and make that into a negative 1n. So now when I ask, what are the terms? The first term is 6n. The second term is 1. The third term is negative 1n. You do need the negative in there. And the fourth term is 4. Now, if you look at this, now that I have it all addition, all I did was take out the addition signs, the plus signs, and change them into commas. That's my list. The like terms are the things that would match. So the things that are both n's, the 6n and the negative 1n, that's one pair of like terms. However, the 1 and the 4 are also like terms. They could be combined. They can be simplified. We could put them together. Coefficients are the numbers in front of variables. So that would be just the 6 from the 6n and the negative 1 from the negative 1n. Constants, again, are the numbers without variables. So that's the 1 and the 4. And then simplest form, to clean this all up. So I would say this 6n and this negative 1n can go together. So if I have 6 of something and then a negative 1 of something, that would leave me with 5 of those things, which are n's in this case. And then I can also add the 1 and the 4 and say that's going to be a plus 5. So let's try another one of those. A little bit longer expression. We've got z's in here, and you're going to see I write my z's kind of strangely. But this time, how many terms are there? Before I do that, let's change all of our subtractions into adding the opposite or keep, change. So in front of this 5, I'm going to go keep, change. So the z stayed, change it to addition, change it to a negative 5. Now that negative 5 is going to stay just the way it is, and I'm going to change this subtraction to addition, change that to a negative 9 in front of the z. So how many terms are there? How many things are getting added together? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms. What are the terms? Now all I have to do is just take my pluses out and make them into commas. So 8z, I cross my z so they don't look like my 2's. And then this z, I'm going to put a 1 in front of it. 1z, negative 5, negative 9z, and 2. Those are my 5 terms. The like terms are the things that could go together. So all of the z's, the 8z, the 1z, and the negative 9z all match. Also the constants, just the regular numbers, those are similar terms. They're like terms. So negative 5 and 2 is another pair. Coefficients are the numbers in front of variables. So I've got an 8, and I've got a 1, and I've got a negative 9. Constants are the numbers with no variables. So negative 5 and 2. And then simplest form is, let's clean this up. So let's put all of our z's together. I have 8 z's plus 1 more z. Now that's up to 9 z's. 9z plus a negative 9z. Take a second, think about that. Those are just going to cancel out. I have no z's in my final answer. All I have left is this negative 5 plus 2, which is negative 3. So we started with 5 terms. We get this down to simplest form, and all it is just a negative 3. Now, this is just that last step, just combining like terms. So I'm going to start with, and I'm going to apologize because this is kind of a blurry picture on this. Let's always start with our variables. And before we try to put anything together, I am not going to leave any subtractions. I'm going to change that to adding a negative or adding the opposite or keep, change. So I'm going to keep the 4k. I'm going to change that to addition, change that to a negative 8. Keep that now as a negative 8, change it to addition, change it to a negative 3k. The things that match. 6k plus 4k, that's 10k. 10k plus a negative 3k. 10 plus a negative 3 is going to be 7k. And then my constants. I've got a 5 and I've got a negative 8, which is negative 3. That answer is just fine. Some people would much rather see it like this, right? And that subtracting 3 is the same as adding a negative 3. So I don't care which one you do. I will never mark it wrong for either of these answers. I don't mind which way you prefer to write it. Okay, a lot of negatives in this one. So let's first of all clean stuff up before we even try to combine things. The first term, this negative k, I'm going to sneak a 1 in front of there. I'm not doing a keep, change, change because it's not a subtraction. I can see that it's clearly a negative. However, this subtraction changes and that changes to a positive. This subtraction changes and then that changes to a negative. And the 4 over here, I'm going to change that to adding and a negative. So let's put all of these k's together. So negative 1k plus a positive 9k. Negative 1 plus 9, that's going to be 8k. 8k plus 2k is 10k. And then I have my constants. I have a negative 11 and I have a negative 4, which would be adding a negative 15. Or again, just like in the problem above, I could have 10k minus 15. I'm okay with either one of those. All right. I'm going to go a little bit faster through these next couple of examples because they're all very similar. So the negative 7's fine. I'm going to change this to keep, change, change. This negative 5k, I want you to be looking at this. This is already addition. So that's just a negative. It's in parentheses. I can clearly see that. So now looking at my k's, I've got a 14k and I've got a negative 5k. So 14 and negative 5, that would be 9k. And then my constants, negative 7 and negative 13. Well, that's up to negative, or down to, I guess, negative 20. Negative 20 plus 3 is going to be negative 17. And again, 9k minus 17 is also just fine. One more on this slide. So we've got, again, a ton of these negatives to worry about. So 4 plus, this is already a negative 2k, that's fine. I'm going to change the subtracting 12 to plus a negative 12. I'm going to change the subtracting 2k to plus a negative 2k. And then instead of subtracting a negative 1, it's going to be change, change, adding a positive 1. So my k's, I've got a negative 2k and a negative 2k, which is a negative 4k. And then I've got 4 and negative 12. Well, that's negative 8. Negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7. So negative 4k minus 7 would be another way to write that. Here's a couple more problems, and I don't need to do all of the problems that are on this slide, but I do want to point out this one has x's and y's. Still both variables, however, they are not like terms with each other. So we're going to have to be careful on this. I have a little bit of subtraction, so I'm going to change this to a keep, change, change, sneak a 1 in there, keep, change, change. When I have more than one kind of variable, I want to go alphabetically. X's come before y's, so let's take care of our x's. 6x plus 2x, that's 8x. And then 8y and negative 1y, that's going to be positive 7y. And 9 plus a negative 11 is a negative 2. Or that could have just been subtracting 2. I do, like I said, have some other problems there, but I think that by now you guys, I'm hoping, are feeling pretty good with this. Today's assignment, the practice problems, are on page 3 from that Unit 5 book that's going to be in Schoology, but I'll have page 3 just as a PDF in your Schoology folder for today. I want you to do 1 through 27 odds. These are gonna be problems that you have to probably write some stuff down for the keep, change, changing signs, that kind of stuff. But it shouldn't take you very long. And if you ever get stuck on anything, just please let me know. When you finish that, you're gonna do the learning check in Schoology. And again, if you don't get that perfect, try it again. You're gonna get unlimited attempts, so let me know if you need any help. Have a good day.